Johnny, this is America's Mayor Live, and we're live from Dover, New Hampshire. And I tell you, it was a really, really nice day today. Why don't you show them a picture of you and me outside, Ted, before we came in for the show? There's our land possessed now by mallard ducks, getting themselves provisioned and ready for their trip south. They are there all day. You can't see them. They're actually, a lot of them are behind Ted's head to the right. And I don't know, Ted, I don't know what's happened to our turkeys. There's a picture of the whole thing. It's me by myself if you want to see it. Yeah, don't pay attention to me. Look at the field. I mean, those are really good pictures. There you can see I have no hair if you want to look carefully. Pretty good, huh?
That's a good photographer there.
Yeah, I don't know who took those pictures. Pretty good, huh? But we'll tell you. We'll show you that one later. Those are my feet on the bed. But got to be careful when you start going through pictures. But at least they're all legal. Well, although we spent a great deal of time on this on the other show, and a really, really good description by Allison. Can we show that part of that again? Is it possible for us to get that?
Yeah, let's.
But you don't have to do it now. We can do it later in the show.
Right.
She did a good job of describing what happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the facts are easy to describe. The reality of it is impossible to describe. It's impossible to describe. I don't care. No matter if you think you understand it, then you're fooling yourself. I've been at this a hell of a lot longer than you have, meaning crime and horrific crime and unexplainable crime and terrorism and Nazism and communism and I don't understand a lot of it. There isn't only this, but I guess the most difficult to understand is if you're crazy or you're politically warped, little kids praying at a mass or church, it's almost like a satanic act, right? Like you could pick any place else to kill someone. It's going pretty far to kill them in school when they just go there to, at that point in their lives, these children are directed. They have to be, right? You have to take care of them, so they're dependent. They're in school because their parents, they have to be. And it should be a good thing for them to be in school. A wonderful thing. Not in America with the teachers union. If they go to one of their schools, it isn't. Because they're being taught. They're not being taught, they're being brainwashed. Just the opposite. I mean, we keep doing this, we're going to lose our edge on creativity. What they should be taught is the ultimate goal should be critical thinking, including about their patriotism and morality. And that should be made practical by learning subjects that will help them be able to analyze and understand the world better as they become adults. In some ways, they're necessary parts of substantive knowledge. In another way, they're exercises. And if you can combine both, using something somebody needs to know and also using it as a way to teach them to critically analyze and think, then you gotten two for the price of one. I mean, you could do a game and end up with things you create to show people how to deductively reason. But it's better if you do that with things they need to know, like they need to know the history of their country, right? They should know the geography of the world. They should be able to have enough information so when things happen as they become adults, they realize that most things don't happen. Well, actually, nothing happens just by accident. Some of it, we're never going to have enough facts historically to understand it completely. And if you're religious and you believe in a God, then there are going to be things maybe somewhat outside your knowledge. But that doesn't mean by the use of knowledge and logic and creative reasoning, you can't make those problems more understandable to yourself, or not, if you've been cut off from being allowed to do that. And that's what American education has done. When the president is at war with the universities, that might be the biggest war he's conducting and the most important. It's really for the minds, the hearts, and the souls of our children, which have been taken to a very large extent because of the Democrat Party dedication to and infiltration by communists. Been true for a long time, and different periods of time, the Democrats have had, greater control by communists. Now they're indistinguishable. The philosophy that is expressed every day by the Democrat Party, with almost none of the cowards in it disagreeing, is pure Marxist textbook strategy. And then you get results like this complete act of evil. Now the press will show you just how dangerous they are, just how damaging they are, just how much they participate in ruining this country by covering this in a false way. They may or may not mention that the person who did it is transgender. And you're going to say, well, what does that have to do with it? Here's what it has to do with it. Transgender, the way they now create it, is a mental illness. So this 21-year-old,
23.
I'm sorry, this 23-year-old is I believe, still a biological male. And he walks around either pretending to be or believing that he's a woman. Now, let's say he believes it. That's called schizophrenia. If I am in a absolutely false realm of reality, that's a mental illness. It's no different than my walking around thinking I'm George Washington. Well, here's my body. His body's been in a grave for a long time. I'm not George Washington. Here's my body. I could put on a dress. I could put on lipstick. I'm a man. I'm not going to change that. So I'm living in an unreal, completely irrational, to the point of insane world. Now, what does coddling that, encouraging it, what does that do to the rest of the human brain? Does it lead you to violence? Well, it can. It certainly can lead you to antisocial, bizarre behaviors. Now, we don't know what else was operating with this guy. We have a few hints. And I'm mentioning this because these are the things that are not going to be covered, like when they hid on the kid who hit the other the private school, the religious private school. And he had a manifesto showing that he was basically conditioned to be that way by all the Democrat brainwashing, all the Democrat craziness. Well, we have little hints here. What are we showing now, Ted? What is that?
Well, this is an 11-minute video. We're playing it without sound. We don't want to give him.
What is that?
This is the manifesto he uploaded.
Oh, the manifesto.
Without sound. We don't want to give him sound, but I figured we don't want to give a platform, but I think it's newsworthy to show.
I don't think we need to play it now, but I don't regard that as giving them a platform. I regard that as telling the truth.
Right.
Obama was unbelievably dishonest about this, and they continue it. There'd be Islamic killings, and he would not acknowledge that they were terrorists. Like when they went into a military base, and the guy started shooting everybody, saying Allah Akbar, and he was communicating with terrorist groups. That wasn't designated as a terrorist attack until, Congress had to do it. If that guy wasn't an Islamic extremist, Obama, he sure pretended to be. Right down to the fact that he was one of the biggest financiers of Islamic terrorism through the cash that he gave to the Ayatollah, who was the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world. Now, none of that is covered by the American media. Even the conservative press covers that up. That's a completely unexplainable act, giving cash to the Ayatollah. That's like giving cash to bin Laden or Hitler. He was hiding it. Another sign of criminality. The guy was using money to kill Americans. That's why we took out Soleimani. They use the word treason sometimes loosely. They actually use it in its more general sense very often. But treason has to do with aiding the enemies of the United States. Well, the Islamic regime of Iran is an enemy of the United States. They've killed well over 1,000 Americans. They have, in essence, declared war on us. And I don't know, you can go right down to when Trump did the peace after the 12-day war with them. They celebrated on the streets. Not with any gratitude to the fact that Trump really hit them in a hard way to get out the nuclear material, but he really laid off any civilian population, even though these guys have killed a lot of Americans. And of course, took American hostages and embarrassed the hell out of this country and tortured those people. Who knows what their lives were like after that? Well, you know what they did? They went on the streets of Tehran and yelled, "Death to Israel, death to America." You give that guy billions of dollars and you're the president and you're not a traitor? And then you're glorified because, God forbid, you can't say anything about it because he was the first African-American president. Just like you can't get rid of Governor Cook of the Fed, even though she lied in order to get monetary advantages and cheat people, cheat the government, cheat the mortgage people. They lost money as a result of what she did. To be distinguished from the phony crime they used against Trump when nobody lost money. Which do you think is worse? When you take money from people illegally and falsely and under false pretenses? Or when you put things down that somebody contends is false, but nobody relies on it, and nobody except the crooked politicians who want to politically stop you from being president, they're hurt by it. But the banks say, we never relied on it. Those loans are a history. In fact, we continue to do business because we made so much money with it. It's incomprehensible that you would prosecute that as a crime. It doesn't meet the common law or American law definition of fraud, which has to be a definable loss. There was a definable gain. In the case of Cook, there's a definable loss. If you put down your residence, both residences as your primary residence, you get a tax break. You cheat the government out of money. That's a loss. You should only have one of those, not two. And that's why you get the tax break, because you have only one of them. Number two, when you lie on a mortgage application and claim it as your primary residence, for the primary residence, you get a lower interest rate, could be half, and a lower down payment requirement. And anybody who's ever bought a summer home will know that. I mean, you in normal times, you could put very little down to get your first home. Now you want to have a summer home, a lot of places, it's 20%. That was for me. Now, if I had them at both my primary residence, I'd have been able to put down much less than that, except I'm a Republican. I would have gone to jail. But she's a African-American, therefore she's not supposed to go to jail. Well, that's what you get when they defend her by saying, it's terrible. He's going after the first African-American to be on the board. or the Fed. No, he isn't. He's going after a criminal on there. White, black, pink, yellow, green. I don't know. He's going after Shifty Schiff for the same thing. Unless he's in blackface, he doesn't look black. I don't know if you realize how far the Democrat Party has gone. But I just want to stop for one moment because there's so much to cover and we got to do it quickly. I'm sure I speak for all of you when I say my heart is broken for what happened to those kids. And it's going to be hard to go to bed tonight, not thinking about them. In fact, I better think about them or I'm not much of a person. And then you begin to empathize as a parent. My God, my kids went to Catholic school. There's nothing about a Catholic school. I don't know. Maybe the guy had something going with Catholics. He seems to have had an affinity for Islam too. You won't find that out. Maybe we're not going to find that out. I doubt that. I think Kash Patel and the Justice Department is going to let us know for real, like they do in cases if in any way they can make it harmful to the America's reputation. I mean, if this guy were like a Proud Boy, what do you think? What do you think would be out there tonight if he was a Proud Boy? Everybody who's a Proud Boy should turn themselves in, or Trump should stop encouraging them because Trump has never encouraged them. Oh, they probably say Trump is responsible for it and he should go to jail.
Right.
I mean, you don't the magnitude of the discriminatory treatment is as damaging as it was, when they did it to Black people, Italian people, Jewish people. Some went on for a historically longer period of time. And then some went beyond just deprivation of rights and imprisonment. They went to actual killing. And I would not equate this with that. But for purposes of analyzing it from a constitutional rights point of view and a government that's a legal government, it's those are just exaggerated manifestations of the same process. And I should tell you about violence that Italian Americans, the group that I'm part of, is the second most lynched group in America. And nobody pays attention to that. Nobody cares about it. I don't know, because they're white, I guess. I don't know. I mean, one of the reasons they were lynched is a lot of people thought they were Black. And the lynchings took place in the 19th century, and a lot of them in the South, by the Ku Klux Klan. And Jews are probably the third. I always thought Jews were the second. But maybe they will be, because I guess they're not lynching anybody, thank God. But they are killing people. I mean, right now, it's got to be that our worst form of prejudice is not anti-Black, anti-Islamic, we're damn pro-Islamic. I mean, we cover up everything about them. We cover everything about the religion. People in America, even in the institutions that are the good institutions, don't teach properly the history of Islam or what the Quran says. You got to know that if we hope to turn it around, because you have to advocate to people to make those changes. They just can't say, we're like any other religion and we have bad people in the religion. No. Your book, your official book, teaches people to be evil people if they follow it. It teaches them and encourages them and requires them to do mass murder and extortion. It glorifies and requires inhumane, indecent, horrible treatment of women. There's nothing in the teachings of Jesus that women should be. Is there anything in the teachings of Jesus that women should be treated different than men? He hadn't ever addressed the subject. There are a couple of disturbing things in the Old Testament that have just been written off. like stoning. You might consider an eye for an eye evil or wrong. Some people would say, no, it isn't. For the purpose of self-defense, it isn't. For the purpose of just gratuitous revenge, it is. And it was corrected. And for Jewish people who don't accept the New Testament, they have for 1,000 years, lived, or more than that, lived differently. You take the few isolated things and you just attribute them to history in the past, and they're not repeated now. Case of Islam, first of all, it isn't isolated. It takes up half of the Quran to do war and methods of gaining. Like there are people who argue that it's really a very tolerant religion because it tolerates religions, other religions. But they fail to mention they tolerate other religions if they pay a tribute and they become dhimmis. They acknowledge that they're less important and they become submissive. Then they might not kill you if you're a Jew, a Christian, or non-believer. They don't accept you as equal human beings. It's the reason that the single biggest purveyors of slavery were the Muslims, which makes it all that much more insane that many blacks became black Muslims. It should be the last religion they would join, since Islam carried on by far the biggest transatlantic trade in slaves and carried it on for about 800 years more than the West did, and kept it up for 150 years more. So these are all things that if you're going to understand the world we're in and therefore make correct decisions to fix it, you've got to understand they can't be hidden from you. We have to understand honestly and clearly why this young man did what he did. If it has to do with the things I'm talking about, because it's not isolated then. If he did it because he's just an individual schizophrenic who literally believes that he was put on earth to kill children at mass, and somehow he believes he sent them to heaven or well, that's different. Then it becomes an issue of how do we treat the mentally ill, which isn't how do we treat the mentally ill? I'll tell you what my friend Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, brutally, ridiculously, by throwing them out of the mental institutions, because the mental institutions weren't what they should be. The answer to that was to fix the mental institutions, not to let them go out on the street, rape, kill, murder, make up 40% of the homeless, if not more. It doesn't mean that every mentally ill person is violent. It means that mentally ill people are much harder to deter, because their crimes are not coming about through any kind of reasoning process that the fear of being punished will stop. It means that they'll become much more repetitive criminals. And they become much harder to rehabilitate, frankly. It could be, and they never will. And they have to be kept away in humane places from everyone else for fear that they'll kill them. It's like sexual predators. You let a sexual predator out with some exceptions, because sometimes the definition, although the person is touching or doing something or other, and it's wrong and they shouldn't be doing it, they're not in the category of a lifelong sexual predator. I can tell you without any doubt, based on many doctors I've dealt with, that if we're talking about a prepubescent predator of children, the overwhelming, if not unanimous, medical opinion is it's not curable. Or we don't know how to cure. We do not have a cure of it. So you can't let them out without knowing they're going to go after prepubescent children again. If we're dealing with sexual predators in that stage of post-pubescent, but before they reach majority, we've got a serious problem. And we may have one that's repetitious. There are many doctors who believe it is curable. And there are many, I wouldn't say many, but there are some that say it isn't. You're in a dangerous area. But you can't say categorically that it's not curable. I am hardly an expert on how do you determine if it is cured, how do you cure it, what do you do? All I can tell you is what I've read, what I've been told by responsible people, and what I've seen in my experience as a prosecutor. But instead, we've got the Democrats in California explain to me how this happens, lowering the penalties for prepubescent pedophiles. Well, they want more of them. And we have a group on the far left, which you don't hear about much, arguing for the fact that we shouldn't be so strict on it because it really is just another illness. So there's a lot that goes into this. The one thing that would not have prevented this at all is gun control. Because why? If he has all these problems, why would he follow gun control? You see, the whole fallacy of the argument of the left-wing communists that oppose gun control and really want it so that they can come and take us. The real argument is the word should give you the answer that it doesn't work. Control only works for people that can be controlled. This kid, due to either criminality or insanity, is unable to be controlled. You're not going to get a gang member, a mafia member, a burglar, a robber. You're not going to get them to follow the laws of gun control. They don't follow the laws of bank robbery or murder or rape. In other words, they're, by definition, not controllable. And you're trying to solve it by putting a control on them. And what's that going to do? That's going to put a control on the legitimate people. And they're going to just expand their activities. You also deal in America with the impossible problem of 200 to 300 million illegal guns, and they're not going to disappear. You can go seize all of them you want. And the Democrats don't allow you to seize them. The solution they use for reducing gun violence is completely inconsistent with the one I used did. I brought gun violence down by 90%. You know what I did? I seized the guns. I took them away from the people who shouldn't have them. And if there was any violation of the law, you went to jail 1 year. No fooling around, no bail, no crap. You go to jail for 1 year. They changed that. They believe in gun control, but they let people get away, go right out on the street if they're caught with a gun in the thousands. Okay, so that's where we are with this terrible thing. Ted, you want to bring us up to date on this? So
yeah, let's hear from...
Before we go on to another subject,
H.
this really is the major concern of the day, and it should be when beautiful little children lose their lives, you know, praying to Jesus. Oh.
Well, let's hear a little bit. Here's an update from Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara.
An Irish Catholic, probably.
I want to make sure that we are providing the most accurate information possible, particularly as we speak around our victims. At this point, we know we have a total of 19 victims from this tragedy. 2 were young children, ages 8 and 10, that were sitting in the pews at Mass when they were shot and killed. They were pronounced deceased on the scene. There were another 14 children between the ages of 6 and 15 that were injured by gunfire. There were also 3 adults in their 80s that were parishioners here attending Mass that were also shot in this incident. The families of all of the children that have been affected have been notified. The coward that shot these victims took his own life in the rear of the church. That coward has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. No prior criminal history. As to the weapons used to perpetrate this horrific attack, there was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All three had been lawfully purchased by the shooter. At this stage, we believe that the shooter had acted alone. There is no indication of other suspects directly involved in carrying out this attack.
So, Mayor, that's an update from the police chief, and then we want to play this. It's a harrowing account from a fifth grader who displayed incredible courage at such a young age.
It was super scary because, like, we've never practiced it in the church. We've only practiced it in the main school, so we really didn't know what to do. We just got into the pews and he shot through the stained glass windows. Yeah.
And did you ever see him?
My friend like ran, someone helped him like run out. He saw him. He was wearing all black and he had a ski mask on.
So just shot through the windows and never came inside?
I don't think so. I mean, I was down, so I didn't really look up. I mean, he shot through the stained glass windows, so they're probably ruined. And
but do you have friends that got hit by bullets?
Yeah, my best friend did.
Have you heard what happened with him? Is he okay?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be okay. And then my friend, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from.
Minute of that, Mayor. Quite a shocking account.
A child was enormously
really
articulate.
kept it together, right? Considering what
Wow.
he just went through.
His parents should be very proud of him. That kid's going to be something, I'll tell you that. I bet 30 years from now, they play that tape when he gets elected or something.
Right.
And they say, way back then. Or when he becomes the chief anchor on the
WCCO.
Honest News show, that they have then. The ones that are tell the truth, not like the ones we have on ABC, CBS,
Right.
MSNBC, that are made up of people not very different than criminals.
Right. So we'll keep folks up to date as we learn more. 2 dead, 17 injured.
How are the people? How are the 2 children that weren't 2 children in critical condition?
Yep. So we're seeing if we have any update on that.
Or were they
from
adults?
those
I don't know.
We believe 2 children in critical, potentially 2 others, and we'll try to get an update, and we'll keep folks updated on the condition of the victims.
Ted, can you while we're talking and whatever, can you see if we can pull up a picture of the Annunciation Church? Like, it doesn't have to be even today, just a picture of the church. I want to see if we know it. I mean, I've been in it, and we've been in Minnesota.
Right. Yeah. We'll
Even
get
like for the convention, right?
for the well, no, not this year. This year we were in
Wasn't it 4 years
Milwaukee,
ago?
Wisconsin. You would have been there in Minneapolis. That would have been 2000. Was it 2008? Or was it 2012?
Yeah, it was one of those. I think it was 12 when we. I think Tampa. Well, one of them was Tampa. One of them was Tampa, and the other was Minneapolis.
Yeah, RNC was in Minneapolis in 2008.
Okay, and 2012 Tampa.
And it was in Tampa Bay.
Right.
And then 2004 was New York, right?
Oh, New York was 04. Yeah, I remember that one, boy.
And 16.
Remember my keynote speech.
16 was Cleveland. Well, here's a picture of the Annunciation Church in southwest Minneapolis. We got that. On
It
the
might be
back on
rather
there.
generic looking, so we'll not, it'll look like a church we've seen. But if it's unusual, I've seen that church. Now, I am going to have to qualify that with. There was a period of time when that was a style of church.
Right, the
Right?
70s.
So think about it. It's not like purely modern because it has the bell tower, which is a feature of really Latin churches, Spanish, Italian. But that your auditorium structure is more of a modern structure. It tries to have sort of pretensions of religiosity, but it does look like and it's a lot better than the ones that are just all windows, you know?
Right. And it's probably, to be frank, it's budget.
I'm
Probably
extraordinarily prejudiced to old churches. I mean,
right.
big ones, and I really love little ones.
But this
I
is a
love
way
little,
to,
little country churches. Oh, Catholic, Episcopalian, Methodist, Lutheran, any of those that have like a solid liturgy. When you have no liturgy and just a minister gives a sermon, and it can be anything on this Sunday or that. When you have a liturgy, it really regularizes a church and requires them to make it more beautiful, because liturgies are beautiful. Liturgies gave rise to operas. I don't know if you know that. If the Catholic Church hadn't done the high mass and the liturgical sung mass, I don't know if we'd have opera. The transition occurred in the 1500s and 1600s, probably before any recorded record that we have of it. But if you want a date to kind of focus on, it'll be around 1600 that composers started to take. Composers always wrote masses for vocal things. Then they started to write like little poems and things like that. But they wanted to do bigger treatment, so then they began writing secular music, and they first begin with religious and classical subjects. You weren't allowed to write opera about you and me. So they would do the Roman and the particularly Greek legends, both as comedies and that's how opera started. And eventually it started to, then it moved into more realism when you got to Mozart and comedy. And then when you got to the Italian composers, Rossini, Bellini, it started to be stories, but almost always high-level stories about kings and queens and heroes, and like Rossini's William Tell, right? Which has the great Lone Ranger overture. And then
Lone Ranger.
Post Verdi, which is late, you get the school of opera known as Verismo. You know what that means? Truth. They started doing it about peasants. The most famous two operas are called the twins, or Cavalleria Rusticana and Pagliacci. Both take place in southern Italy, one in Calabria and one in Sicily. And it's about real life people, about cheating, marital cheating, and the Italian answer to it, murder. Yeah. Remember the scene in The Godfather? Godfather 1, and Michael is going to get married, and he's walking around the town of Corleone, and he sees all the tombs, and he says, "What's all this?" He said, "Oh, the entire young male population is gone." Now, why is that? Vendetta. Vendetta. Well, Ukraine. What's going on with the Ukraine? So Russia is still thinking about whether they're going to negotiate with Putin. The president is still urging it, and they are still saying things that are 100% indicating that they're not. They have raised so many objections, it's not even worth listing all of them, except the most specious. One is he's not really the president of Ukraine because he extended his election. Meanwhile, they got a guy who's the president for life. That doesn't sound like it's a real legitimate concern of theirs. It sounds like they're trying to put off the meeting so they can continue to kill Ukrainians and take a few more inches of land, which is all they're going to get. Really, I think it's being done to inflict more pain and punishment on Ukraine to see if they can break their will or break the will of the United States. And nor do they really know what the will of the United States is, because the president says there'll be serious consequences or he'll just drop out. So I don't know that they really know, and they're probing around. Well, when push comes to shove, what President Trump going to do? I think going into it, they thought they knew, but then it would have to naturally be the case that with the shifts that he made, they're not sure what he's going to do. And I think they can push it to the extreme, because if he does if he does do it or they become convincing, they can always cave in then. They don't have to cave in now. I wish that thinking were adopted because it's correct. And it isn't so much that we'd be over it. The faster we confront it and we do everything we can to get Putin to stop, the faster we're going to save human lives, which after all, isn't that our objective? The longer we take, the more useless our solution will be, because a lot of people will be dead anyway. A lot of people are dead already. And now they're just being killed for nothing. And they're civilians. The Russians are concentrating on civilians. Everybody's all upset about the Israelis killing civilians, which appears to be completely collateral and accidental. And in Russia, it's completely targeted. But for some reason, even though people are against Russia on this, they don't make a big deal out of it, and they should. He is actually charged as a war criminal, but today there also was evidence from a former prisoner of war taken by Russia. We only have his first name, Vladislav. He's 33 years old, and he was returned. We don't know how he got out. We don't know if he was part of the prisoner exchange or he escaped. There have been some escapees, and they're not revealing it. And they are revealing that some others that he's communicated with did escape, but they're not revealing their names, just their stories. But Vladislav says in the group that he was with, the place that he was put, and maybe he's in a category of having special information. They were routinely tortured by the Russians. Now, if you don't believe this is the way the Russians conduct themselves. This is what they did in the Second World War. Of course, they did it to the Nazis, so nobody cared. And the Nazis did it to them, but quite frankly, not as bad. If you compare the way our prisoners of war, for example, were treated, I'm not talking about the concentration camps, the prisoners of war, the way our prisoners of war were treated by the Germans and by the Japanese. Could be wrong. I just digging back in my recollection here. Our casualty rate in the German prisoners of war camp, although they were horrible, was less than 10%. Our casualty rate in Japan was close to 50%. The incidents of torture were isolated in German concentration camps. Incidents of torture were routine in Japanese concentration camps. They didn't just do it to the Americans, they did it to the Chinese. They did it to the Koreans, which is why you have this tremendous hatred. But the Russians and the Japanese, and the Germans to some extent, but it wasn't the German army, it was the SS. So when you look, you say, well, what about the concentration camps? Not the prisoner of war camps, which is what I really should have been referring to. The concentration camps were not run by the German army. They were run by the SS. That was like the Revolutionary Guard that was run by Soleimani, or the secret police run by the Shah. They were specialists in torture, and that's what the concentration camps turned into. But the army, rightly or wrongly, considered itself a legitimate army, very proud army. So they ran relatively straight prisoner of war camps. I'm sure they were terribly harsh, but they weren't routinely engaging in torture for gratuitous reasons. Well, the Russians do. And they also fight a war like Neanderthals. They get everybody killed, and they think rape is they still think like they're in the 3rd century, and rape is like something that a winning army is entitled to, or even a losing army. They're animals. No reason to think they're any better now. What they've done to Ukraine isn't inhumane and indecent, a hell of a lot worse than anything an Israeli army would do or an American army. So Vladisov says that his fellow prisoners were castrated at times just to get their attention. Their eyes were gouged out, their faces were mutilated, of which they have examples of people that have escaped. But by and large, those people are not released as part of the release programs, as you can imagine why, right? They don't want the evidence against them. Vladisov, who has one child, isn't able to speak. Now, I don't know what they mean by that. They don't point out if that they took his tongue out or it's psychological. They just say he's unable to speak. He was captured. He had actually escaped. He went back to try to help get prisoners to escape. He was successful to a large extent. Then he got caught with a group of others. And the first people that were caught, he was not among them, had their eyes gouged out, their lips cut off, one or all of these, and their genitals cut off. So the others would turn themselves in. A lot of them were buried alive. He crawled his way out. For 5 days, he crawled. And he finally crossed into the Ukrainian lines. He was last time taken in the city of Pokrovsk, which is the city that Russia just partially captured. It's that extra space, the extra area in Donetsk that they want. He hasn't given up hope that he can speak again, and he wants to go back and fight him. That's just a typical situation, given what's going on in that awful place. And I don't know what the resolution of this is going to be. It's going to be very, very hard to get a resolution without Ukraine giving up territory. It's going to be totally catastrophic if they have to give up the part of Donetsk known as the fortress, because it will make them 100 times more vulnerable once they do that. And if Russia is allowed to weaken in any way what was originally thought of as the security guarantees, it just means that the minute Trump goes out of office, Putin takes the rest of Ukraine and makes them into slaves. And I don't know, you say it's not our war, it's not our concern. Do you know that our government promised them in, what was it, 1991 or 93, that if they were to be invaded, we'd defend them as a condition of their giving up? So did the UK and so did Russia. But Russia didn't mean, they knew that Russia's signature didn't mean anything. It used to be that America's signature meant something, but we don't want any boots on the ground. Americans shouldn't die for Ukraine. I don't know. I guess it's arguably yes. Isn't it arguably no too? Isn't that close enough to helping to push China as the world power when we can't stand up to barbarism that's staring us right in the face? It's not as if, we're involved. We are involved there. And we are tolerating it, and we are letting it happen. You don't think that reduces respect for us by our enemies? And gives Z more of a chance to think, I can push these guys. They're not so tough anymore. They're afraid of a war with Russia. My God, they're so much more powerful than Russia. They could crush them economically. They're not even doing that. Man, I can screw around with them. I got a lot more resources than Russia has, and I've got unbelievable infiltration into their country. I got a whole bunch of their people on my side because I pay them. Russia is now talking to Exxon to see if Exxon will start dealing their oil. I don't know why they think they're going to be allowed to do that. I hope there's not some kind of an agreement. And man, if they want to do that, they should give territory back. When are we going to start treating them tough? I'm starting to get impatient. You can see that, right? Because I'm beginning, I know it's wrong, the way we're handling it. But I thought we're going to change it. And whenever I hear anything that sounds like we are, we take a step back. I mean, Witkoff today said, well, they're just going to have to give up some land. No, they're not. Only if we force them to. They don't want to. I know you say they're tired of war. They are tired of war. But they're more afraid of giving up land because they know if they give up land, particularly land that Ukraine wants, it's just within the next 10 years, they're going to be a Soviet vassal again. The Europeans are starting to get a little leery. I don't know how that is, just, expressions of opinion, but they're not so happy right now about France and the UK, and I think maybe in Germany too. Germany in particular, about using troops so it doesn't seem like America does. Now, there is a good argument that they have more at stake than we do because it's on their continent. But we're not only that we don't want to use troops, we're sort of like, we always have this back away policy. We don't even want to be backups. I think we're willing to do air coordination and let them use our equipment if they pay. And we've got France and Germany and UK and possibly Italy and the Eastern countries paying now us for the arms. Are we going to use our specialists to help them use it? I certainly would hope so. But there is the Europeans feel a reluctance from defending Ukraine. So it's producing in their citizens now, the politicians, the political leaders have a great desire to do it, but the others don't. And, there were times at which when before push came to shove and everybody's position was on the table, you could say we were just wasting money and giving money to Ukraine. But now we're down to what the terms are. And the Russian terms are completely 100% defeat for Ukraine, victory for them, and setting them up for another war. And their announced goal, just reading what Putin has written, is to eventually take all of Ukraine. It's about as transparent as you can be. And therefore, if we are a country that's going to defend us in the world, we have to be able to stand up to this. We have to have enough backbone to stand up to it. I mean, people even say, well, we shouldn't have got involved in the war in Europe because it was in Europe. Well, didn't you ever consider, I mean, do people have enough of a brain to logically think out if Hitler had taken all of Europe? And Russia would have gone then too. How long would we have existed as they consolidated their power, economic, and they'd controlled, 2 times more of the world than we did. And if China went communist, it'd be like 3 times. You think we would have had the 1950s and the 1960s? Or do you think that movie that they used to have on, The Man in the Golden Tower or The Man in the Tower?
Yeah. Man.
What happens if Germany and Japan won the war would be the reality. Ukraine has killed 3 Russians, one-offs. And these people were known as the Butchers of Bucha. And they in Bucha, they attacked, and a lot of women were left dead and raped, particularly in several houses. And they got into Luhansk, the Ukrainian undercover people, and did what the Israelis did so well. They killed the animals who were engaged in inhumane, indecent war crimes. It's a good way to deter them. What's this thing about raping women and killing children? Israel, of course, is being attacked by everyone, even a little bit the White House, because of the death of some civilians in Khan Yunis, because they hit a hospital called the Nasser Hospital. Well, let's first of all not express any particular sympathy for the journalists, because they all support Hamas, even though they work for what appear to be neutral agencies like Reuters and Associated Press. Some work for Al Jazeera. When you look at them, I think the 6 that were killed, 4 of them clearly were terrorists. And the one that was killed that caused a lot of that was definitely a terrorist involved in the January 6 attacks. And how the hell, if they're going to be in a war zone, do you prevent, what do you put on the bomb? Don't kill a journalist. Well, maybe they did, but they weren't really journalists. They were terrorists. So the bomb killed them. Maybe they did program the bomb and the bomb smelled them out and they said they're rotten terrorists who rape women, kill children. So we're going to kill them too. Now, the killing of the patients in the hospital is very unfortunate. But the Israelis claim that there were a group of surveillance cameras that were being used to track down IDF members because they are controlling Khan Yunis and kill them. And they were guided by where the camera was, not the hospital. And of course, they warned the hospitals to be cleaned out. And you know what happened when they were cleaned out is they put more civilians in, so they could claim more civilians died. And do we know they're telling the truth about the number of civilians died? They haven't shown us the bodies. Why the hell would Hamas tell the truth only about that? But we got to go condemn Israel. This is no better than he said, she said. One side is a terrorist group acknowledged by the world to be one of the most brutal, barbaric, prehistoric group of perverted murderers. And the other group is one of the great experiments in creating a democracy out of nothing, who are trying to defend themselves against avowed, everyday declarations of genocide. Who are we going to believe? And then if you want to try practical instead of based on morality and decency, in the name of anything, why would Israel want to extend to any extent the killing of civilians? Killing civilians is not going to increase the end of the war. It's just going to it's going to prolong it. Killing civilians hurts them. It's used as a propaganda tool against them, and the world has completely been deceived, or wants to be deceived, by the Hamas maniacal murderers. So there's even if you assume that Israel are maniacal killers, you have to also assume that Israel is a very, very intelligent country. Isn't that part of the prejudice about Jewish people? They're all very smart. Well, I don't know if all Jewish people are very smart. The ones that I know are very smart, and the ones that run Israel are very smart. They're not going to play into the enemy's trap of killing civilians. When they conduct an operation, it's their desire to have no civilians dead. That's when they win. And the Hamas and the other groups can't stand up. The only way they can beat them is by knowing that they have all of this corrupt press. Also, Israel doesn't allow legitimate press into Gaza. Maybe that's not right. I mean, maybe that's a First Amendment violation. But Israel doesn't have a First Amendment. Gaza sure as hell doesn't have a First Amendment. So if you're there on your own risk. What, if I go to a war zone, how much complaining can I do if I get killed? It's like you build your house on the beach and the hurricane takes it away. Ooh, gee, I never thought of that. Oh, well, there are hurricanes here every 4 years. Oh. And, bombs are thrown on here all the time. Oh. And by the way, even our bombs backfire sometimes and kill people inadvertently, quite a bit. Oh, gee. Yeah, but I won't get killed. I'm a journalist. The bomb comes to me, it sees journalist, and it goes away. I think now the bomb sees journalist and says, that's a bad person.
Yeah. Right.
Also, they have been able to identify 6 terrorists that they killed as they got some identities back. I don't know how that overlaps with the journalists, but there are 6 definite members of Hamas official members of Hamas. Now, what percentage of that population isn't an official member of Hamas, but a hater of Israel, a hater of the Jewish people, brought up from the time they were two, believing the Jewish people should be eliminated in their interest, and therefore are terrorists? I don't know. There is a group now protesting. Do you know what Hamas is doing? They're killing them. They're killing fellow Palestinians, which they've been doing all the time, which is why they don't want them in Jordan and they don't want them in Egypt. But the Jewish people have to accept them, even though they're dedicated to the annihilation of the Jewish people. And why we're ambiguous in what we're doing here, I don't know any more than the ambiguity in Russia, although the ambiguity here is less. When you hear it coming out of the silly State Department and some of the silly advisors. You don't hear it from the president. The president, made the point very, very dramatically, even about Ukraine. How the hell are you going to defend yourself if you can't bomb them in their own country? Now, the Pentagon and this Elbridge Colby, yeah, gets to approve whether Ukraine can defend itself or not, and he doesn't let them defend themselves. I don't know if he's a friend of Putin's or what the hell he is, but it sure sounds to me like Marco should throw him out on his ass.
Right.
But not only shouldn't he be doing that, number two, he's making the wrong decision.
Right. Yeah, that's like
in the interest of the security of the United States overall, and he's misleading people.
Right.
But he has for a long time had an unhealthy giving one of the most professional, biggest, and bloodthirsty murderers in the world the benefit of the doubt, Vladimir Putin. And he supposedly likes me. But I don't have a problem saying that he's a bloodthirsty murderer. And we have to deal with him, but as a bloodthirsty murderer. Wouldn't be the first time I dealt with a bloodthirsty murderer. Just have to know how to deal with them. You've got to be tougher than they are. And you are, because they're not tough, actually. People that do murder are not tough. Particularly if they do repeated murder. It takes away any real courage. Can you imagine how many people guard that little shit, Putin? Pretty easier to guard him than Trump because, three people get around, they can make him disappear. Trump's a big man. The other guy's a small man. That's why he would have these pictures of him, I wonder if he can actually lift weights of those with phony pictures. He's probably like Mandami.
right. Yeah.
Can't lift his own weight.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Get the real.
No spotter.
No spotter. Mamdami too.
Of course, he killed people, but he didn't kill them by beating them to death. He killed them by giving them poison. That's a nice way to kill people. So as this is all going on, they recovered some Nazi art, Israeli art, or Israeli-owned art, or German Jewish-owned art that was stolen by the Nazis. One is a very valuable painting, portrait of a lady by Giuseppe Gislandi, that was found in a home of a very rich person in Argentina, which supports where we found all those damn Nazis, two of whom I had the great honor of sending to their death. And neither were German. They were from the Eastern countries trying to suck their way into the SS. They got into the SS and then they started killing Jews. And they kept escalating the number of Jews they killed because they could get promoted, depending on the number they killed. In fact, one of them defended himself with the rather odd defense that he was exaggerating the number of Jews that he killed. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but there were like 12 million attributed to him. It was more like 5 or 6. The judge had quite a reaction to that. That's when we had real judges. Judges now would say, oh yeah, he should be entitled to go free.
Right.
This judge looked at him, that's really a defense? A defense is, I tell you what, I'll reduce from the sentence that I would have given for 12 million, what I'd give for 5 million. But you're going to calculate that like 1,000 years to 800 years.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, we didn't have to worry about the Russians killed them. We sent them back to Russia. Boom, gone. The Russians were going to put him back on trial. The Russians figured, why waste a trial on him? And nobody got notice.
Yeah.
He died in his prison cell.
Right.
I wonder where those guys were when Epstein died. The guys, I wonder where they were when Mayakovsky's died of a heart attack, which of course can easily be induced by the most favored way of Russians to kill. You know what that is? They have
Poison.
A preferred way to kill.
It's a poison of some.
Yeah, if a person's poisoned, there's a 4 out of 5 chance of the Russian to do
Right.
it. If you hit with a baseball bat, it's a kid from Brooklyn, or a kid from Brooklyn.
Russia, they also push people off stairs, right, and roofs or high balconies.
I just would be very careful eating in Russia.
Yeah.
And particularly me.
Right.
So they're on the trail of some other art too. So that's good.
Right. That's very good.
The family gets it back. It creates a certain connection and a certain remembrance. And this idea of never forget needs some support. The Australians have thrown out the Iranian ambassador because they were planning explosions in Australia. Yeah, like the Iranians don't kill people in other countries. I think Tucker Carlson said that a few weeks ago. Tucker?
Yeah.
You want to read this? You want to talk to me about the 2 times they tried to kill me? You think maybe I have some personal feelings about that? They were only 2 days away from one and 3 days away from the other. You think I'm making it up, then you've got to understand, I hardly get worried about people trying to kill me. They've been doing it since I was a baby.
True.
And by the way, they were both convicted. They were both convicted if you'd ever bother to check. Now, nobody in this country checked because they don't care. When it happened, the Biden administration didn't do anything for me. I don't know, they probably applauded. And even now, the government doesn't do anything about it. They tried to kill me in Albania. They were arrested by the Albanian government. The ambassador was thrown out. And then 4 months later, and that was going to be me and Madame Rajavi. 4 months later, they were going to kill as many as they could at the gathering in Paris. And this one got some attention, but very little. And they were caught pretty much at the border. Really the work of the Germans and the Belgians more than the work of the French. And the French got nervous about prosecuting them, the Belgians did. And they all went to prison for life. And then the main guy who was the architect of it was let out on a prisoner exchange. So he's out. Maybe he doesn't remember. Unfortunately, I do. And I will never forget. And I want to see that regime gone. That's also, I've never understood our reluctance at regime change there. We changed regimes that were a hell of a lot less dangerous to us and killed a lot less Americans than the Reign of Terror. I mean, you look at Libya, and you look at originally Egypt, even Iraq. There's no comparison between the damage that Iran has done to the United States and those two countries. I don't understand that. I've never understood the special break that's given to Iran or the special break given to Putin. I don't get it. Of course, we should be able to talk to them, but we should be tough as nails. They are. China, there has been an expose, strangely, by the New York Times, and we'll go into it in more detail. Michael Goodwin did a very, very good analysis and summary of it in his article today, maybe because he's constantly criticizing the Times. He has something, he used to write for the Times. And he points out how they have demonstrated the rather massive infiltration that China has made into our government. Now, a lot of this comes off the Adams case, believe it or not, whose chances of getting reelected keep going down as more and more of his people get arrested for a scheme to take kickbacks from the massive homeless program that he was outrageously and irrationally promoting. When they did an analysis in the early days of the millions of people coming in, something like 80% preferred New York because they heard Adams on television saying, we're the best place. He wanted them. We're the best place to come to. We treat everybody the best. You can get a free education here. We're going to extend it into higher education. We're going to include health care. When he said that, I jumped off my seat. Americans don't get health care. So why did New York get more than anybody else? And then he started crying about New York getting more than most, and Biden, I think, prosecuted him for that. But on the other hand, he was asking for it, right? I mean, if I were the president, I'd say, I'm not going to give you any money. You asked for it. You pay for it, jackass. And then he never had the guts to follow through and getting Bragg out, who's responsible for probably half the murders in New York, or stand up to the legislature that's passed laws that basically is responsible for the rest of the crime in New York, including the cashless bail thing that Trump had to do away with. There was a period of time that Adams could have affected that when he was a popular black Democrat. Now, of course, he can't. He's very unpopular. He's got like an 8% approval rating or something. And he's not that bad, really. He may or may not be crooked. I don't know that. I know people would say, well, with all of this going on around him, we're talking about millions of dollars, maybe more, being kicked around. Contracts that should be 20 million being 80. No accounting, no reporting, like de Blasio did with his wife. No one knows how much money they stole. But that's what Democrats get away with. The same thing was true with the money to Ukraine. They never put any controls on it. And you're giving it to the second, third, fourth most corrupt country in the world. That doesn't mean that poor people are corrupt, and doesn't mean that poor people should be slaughtered and savagely treated. Russia is, if anything, more corrupt. But it does mean you should put controls on the money you give to them. Gee, unless you share in the money. Oh, I wonder why I would think that. Want me to play the hard drive for you sometime and see all the involvement and all the money that complete degenerate bum got from Ukraine and China? The Chinese agents set up scores of supposedly charitable organizations in Manhattan and throughout the 5 boroughs as part of its scheme, and that organizations are violating their state and federal tax exemptions by engaging in political advocacy. These are groups that donated money to politicians, that paid as independent expenditures for the election of Democrats, including Andrew Cuomo, Governor Hochul, Mayor Adams. Nobody's investigated. Nobody revealed this. This information has been around for quite some time. You think if this was a Republican, this information would be around for quite some time? Or you think it'd be exaggerated? At least 19 registered charities had ignored the ban on election activities. They did endorsements, they gave money. They're all not-for-profits that are seen as wonderful do-gooders. Believe me, the biggest scam in this country are the not-for-profits. The biggest scam overseas are the non-governmental organizations. That I know in detail, how foreign aid and foreign money is laundered through the NGOs. You know who has lots of NGOs? One of the richest men in the world, Soros. He wouldn't have NGOs if he couldn't make money with them. That's where he got a lot of the money to put the DAs in who are getting people killed in America. Well, we would like you to go over to Lindell TV to listen to Dr. Maria, whose show started a few minutes ago. We were going to talk a little about the Fed and his efforts against Lisa Cook, the mortgage fraudster, who he's not supposed to go after because she's African American. Gee, I thought we changed that. And I thought we were America. You shouldn't go after her because she's an African American. You shouldn't go after her because she's a white American. You should go after her because she claimed at approximately the same time that 2 residences were her primary residence. And then there was this lawyer that we excoriated last night who said, "Oh, that's like claiming having 2 cars." No. Claiming 2 cars, you don't steal money from people. If you claim 2 residences, you steal money from the state because you get a much lower tax on both residences because you're supposed to pay a higher tax on the second residence. That's why she did it, not because she just wanted to do it. And then the other reason she did it is you could do a lower down payment and get a lower interest rate. In other words, she was, let's call it now, cheating. Whether she gets prosecuted or not, that'll be up to the U.S. attorney in Georgia, wherever the venue is located. But the most important thing is you want a cheater like that on the Federal Reserve. The lawyer's argument on that is, well, she committed the crime before she became a member. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, she robbed a bank before she became a member, so we're going to put her in charge of banks.
What's wrong with these people?
They're either really stupid because the law professors the current law professors are probably the stupidest we've ever had. This guy's a law professor, come to think of it, at Cornell. Man, get your tuition back, guys, at Cornell. If this guy actually thinks you can do an analogy between fraudulent mortgage papers and having 2 cars, he doesn't belong teaching students. He's too stupid or he's too much of an ignorant, dumb liar. To be a good lawyer, and if you want to lie, they has to carry some weight.
Yeah.
It's got to pass the smell test. I mean, imagine making that argument in court. It's like the lawyer for Garcia, the wife beating a human trafficker drug dealer, who the Democrats did everything they could to get back in the United States because he hadn't finished beating his wife. He had to come back and beat her up a few more times. So his lawyer argued, you can't send him to Uganda because he doesn't speak the native language. He doesn't speak the language of Uganda. The lawyer is so damn lazy. What a bum. He never checked the fact that the official language of Uganda, and they speak it, is American, English. So actually, technically, he's right. He shouldn't be sent to Uganda because he doesn't speak English. Then what the hell is he doing in America?
Right.
Bye-bye.
Absurd.
And we got guys driving dangerous vehicles, big, fat, dangerous vehicles who can't read signs like
Can't speak
don't make a right turn.
And
then they make a right turn and they go into ongoing traffic and kill 3 kids.
Isn't that common sense? Why is that even partisan, Mayor? Should the operator of large motor vehicles on American roads speak English, the same language that all of the signs are in?
Yeah, they should be able to read English and speak English, and they should take a test like you do.
I had to do a test.
We all did. You have to do a written test, which means you have to speak English.
And we got to get IDs.
And you got to do a driving test. Now, I don't know how bad this guy is, but in Ohio, you had a city there where they had to send in the National Guard. Cars were coming up on the street and killing people. We'll find that. We were going to get it for tonight. We'll find the one video I remember that will always stick with me when they killed a woman at Christmas time, and the Haitian went up on the sidewalk with the car and killed her. Now, a lot of these Haitians that especially got a license in Ohio, and this is Mayor DeWine, a supposed Republican, never took a license, a test. And nobody even asked if they were taught to drive in Haiti. Now, a lot of these people were never taught to drive. And they got behind the wheel of the car, and the place became the city became a homicidal bumper cars.
Well,
why in the life of anything would you give an illegal a license without they're demonstrating they can drive? It's not about being legal, illegal, immigrant, not an immigrant. Nobody should be able to drive if they can't drive. You're not a safer, completely untrained, unable to drive person because you're an immigrant. It doesn't give you some special ability to drive, particularly if you're coming out of a jungle and the 5th world, which is what Haiti is.
Well, this is the woman from Springfield.
Everyone is talking about the death of ducks and cats in this town, but I'd like to talk about the death of one very special person, my mother-in-law, Kathy Heaton. On December 1st, I received a phone call that changed my life forever. She was collecting her trash can from her driveway when a car struck and killed her instantly. A task she had done over 2,000 times, spanning 4 decades in Springfield. That morning, though, a Haitian immigrant was allegedly driving recklessly when he struck and killed her. I say allegedly because to this day, there's been no punishment.
So I just wanted to recount that.
We'll get the video, but she's putting, you if you ever taken out garbage, you'll relate to this in a minute. Now you're going to wonder, when did he take out garbage? You lived in the city. I used to have a summer house in Southampton when I was really rich until the Democrats took it all from me. I'm just as happy. I got to tell you, it really is true. Money doesn't make you happy. Leading your life in a way that makes you proud of yourself, it makes you happy. Doesn't mean you're not unhappy about stuff. Doesn't mean you feel great tragedy and great loss. But we're talking about fundamental happiness, almost in a spiritual sense, not giddy and you feel happy with yourself when you have felt that you pretty honestly, as best you can, have assessed what your duties and responsibilities are. And you fulfilled the big ones, and you particularly fulfilled the tough ones to your fellow citizens. And the ones that you haven't, you pray for forgiveness and make sure you do it in the future. But you got to be driven by understanding what makes you happy. Taking drugs doesn't make you happy. What it does is it makes you dead. So we'll go into that some other time. It's giving a lot of lectures on this.
Right. But
I hope at times to people where it was very helpful. But let's pray.
Before we pray, Mayor, okay, I just wanted to give you a quick video.
Please.
We promised, I promised you this video cut, and we put some time into it. So this is from earlier today, just for our viewers. This is on the farm here in.
Oh, those are turkeys?
And yeah, this is from earlier today. We had a busy day. So
we have turkeys and mallards. You know what I haven't seen? How they interact, Ted.
Right. Well, here they are. This is from earlier today. These turkeys are getting big.
I'm not really in it. That looks like a really big
They're
turkey.
big. Remember, I was all excited to get the video. I'm like, I got to get a video of these guys.
He's a very majestic looking turkey. I don't think I could kill him and eat him. I'd have to not know him.
Right. Look how close I could get to it.
I couldn't. I was thinking of maybe killing one and we'd eat it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't kill somebody I knew. I mean, eat somebody I knew.
Right.
I might not be able to eat turkey anymore at all now.
Right.
They're so cute.
They're so big. But watch them here.
But turkeys are dumb, aren't they?
They seem dumb, but I don't know. I don't want to just say that because they seem.
Do you know the pigs
are very smart, but they also seem dumb when you look at them. But I don't, you don't want to judge a book by its cover.
Yes, they do seem dumb. They seem dirty, but the dirty is all environmental. I mean, you put them in a clean environment, they start licking themselves like a cat.
Yeah. But these ones are smart. Look at them. They kind of split up.
Maybe they are smart.
They're split up. Look at this one. Look how they can jump too. Watch them jump. Watch them jump.
Okay, maybe we should call President Trump and these guys should be spared for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Well, they got to have some turkeys.
Oh, look at that. You see that?
Wow.
You see that? Watch that again.
I guess they're looking for food, right?
Oh.
You think, what my grandmother used to do when we lived in Long Island?
What's that?
She used to give the excess bread to the birds.
Yeah.
My mother used to go crazy because we ended up with all kinds of birds in our backyard and they would, go to the bathroom all over the place. But my grandmother loved birds.
Right.
So she would go, she was like a typical Italian old lady. And she'd go out and she'd put the bread in a napkin, in her apron rather. And then she'd, sometimes when she didn't have stale bread, she used a good Italian bread.
That's funny.
Would go crazy.
That's funny.
Said, Mom, we just bought that. Yeah, but I don't have anything else and the birds will starve. Well, on that thought, remember what life is about. Hopefully that little anecdote will tell you what life is about in a profound way. Go see Dr. Maria now. She'll recommend something for your pains. She's a great doctor, by the way, great diagnostician. She's a nurse provider with a doctorate in hospital administration, and she ran hospitals from small ones to big ones. And she was the leading hospital administrator for 7 straight years in America for small rural hospitals. So she knows what she's talking about. And she's very, very good at explaining things to me, even, and to Ted. And you're going to be back tomorrow night here at 8, 7 on Lindell. We're going to be there, and we're going to be covering all the things they keep from you, which is a lot, right?
Right.
Do I have the right night, Ted?
It is Wednesday. We want folks to head on over.
I wanted to make sure. Okay, so go down. God bless America. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
To celebrate the new...
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply